Hi, my name is Andrea, and I'm coming to you from Mind Body Wellness, and our topic today is combating anxiety and panic. So, it is important to know how to create the calming response, otherwise known as the parasympathetic response or relaxation response in the body when you go into your anxiety or panic states. This is going to allow you to come back to calm when you need to. And I'm going to explain how to do that or give you some tools for that. But first, I want to talk a little bit about what happens in the brain and body when you become anxious or panicky, or when you spiral into a full-blown panic attack. So the first thing that happens is the amygdala, which is part of the brain stem back here, signals the prefrontal lobes up here, sometimes known as the CEO or manager part of the brain, that there's imminent or life-threatening danger present. Now, when the prefrontal lobes get that message, they're going to tell the rest of the brain and body to stop what they're doing and focus on the threat immediately, which will put you into your survival mode or your fight, flight, or freeze mode. Now, as a result of that, those messages going back and forth between those parts of the brain, we're going to see that blood and oxygen starts to be diverted away from the brain to the major muscle groups like the biceps, the quads, and that would be really useful if you were going to punch somebody or run away. Your body temperature is going to get elevated and a big surge of adrenaline is going to be released. Digestion will be turned off. Your heart rate becomes elevated. These are things that would be very helpful to a person in an emergency life-threatening scenario, or if someone else's life is in danger and you wanted to help. Like imagine that you were in a burning building, the smoke detectors are going off, and you want to help your colleague or coworker get out of the building quickly. Now in this day and age, our survival mode is often getting triggered or tripped unnecessarily. Our wiring is too sensitive, like a faulty car alarm, that goes off too quickly. We begin to feel anxious or panicked, but there's not a burning building to run out of. There's no predator chasing us. In fact, it's often just our thoughts or our negative expectations or fears about the future or potential future that trigger this whole chain reaction. Now, unfortunately, because there's no real danger in these situations, all this stuff happening in the body has no benefit, no way of being used or released, and it begins to feel really uncomfortable for us. It might even begin to make us worry that something really bad is happening or about to happen, which continues the whole loop, continues to keep us triggered and in this survival mode. We might feel nauseous because digestion's gotten turned off. We might feel muscle tension that's uncomfortable, hot, shaky, dizzy, and we're not going to be able to think clearly. We're going to act more impulsively because a majority of the blood and oxygen has been diverted away from the brain. Now, really interestingly, in a normal calm state, 70% of the blood and oxygen in our body is going to the brain. That's why we can think clearly and get control of our impulses. But when this happens, when we go into that fight, flight, or freeze mode, unnecessarily, we need to be able to get the message back to the prefrontal lobes, false alarm. There's no actual imminent danger, and it's safe to come back to calm. So how do we do that? Well, here are two ways. Number one, you want to take 3 or 4 deep, slow, full diaphragmatic breaths, where you're really filling up 100% of your diaphragm and lung capacity with each inhale. So try counting to a 3 count on the inhale and 6 count on the exhale for each breath, going in through the nose and out through the mouth. This, believe it or not, is going to send an initial signal to begin that parasympathetic or calming response, reversing all the changes initiated by the sympathetic response or that initial message that sent us into fight, flight, or freeze. So continue with those deep, slow breathing or breaths until you've returned to calm. Once the mind initiates the calming response, it'll stop releasing that extra adrenaline and cortisol and begin to metabolize what's already been released. Number 2, you could drink water slowly. This activates digestion, which also sends a message to the prefrontal lobes that it's okay to come out of fight, flight, or freeze. Because if there's time to digest something, it must be safe to come out of that fight, flight, or freeze. You wouldn't be stopping to have a drink of water if you were getting chased by a lion, right? And for this reason, sometimes that state is also called the rest and digest state, the calm state. Now, when you are in your calm state, that rest and digest state, you are going to have the best access to your resources, memory, impulse control. So that's where you really want to be at most times. Interestingly, the same symptoms that one might feel in that fight, flight, or freeze can be triggered by a significant sugar level drop in your blood system. So you might want to check with your physician to rule this out if this happens to you often. So I hope that's been helpful. My name is Andrea from Mind Body Wellness. I'm a certified clinical hypnotherapist and mental health coach, and you can find out more about me at hypnotherapyandwellness.com.